broadcast contains imagery and themes that may not be suitable for all members of the audience. If you are easily disturbed, a child, or experience feelings of unease when exposed to certain topics, termination of this broadcast is highly advisable. This broadcast contains quickly flashing, high contrast images that may cause discomfort or harm to members of the audience. Audio could be uncomfortable. Terminate. Okay, pressing the escape key, enter key, or the X key. You have 3 ways of quitting the game. Also press F4 to toggle between full and windowed. Hey, I appreciate that. Built-in full screen and windowed mode. To type I accept to continue. Right. Oh. Okay, I guess if you push enter, it quits the game. Okay, let me try that again. Okay, I accept. I did find you. Well, maybe you found me. Everything ends in 0. I really like the audio so far. It's been great. I'll just start. I'm afraid to push enter now. Oh, and the text at the top is slowly changing. That's awesome. You made the soundtrack yourself. Looks beautiful so far. How do I... Enter doesn't start. Spacebar, left click. Push Z to start? How would I know to push Z? Was that in the disclaimer at the beginning? Finding out as I'm aging that I'm in love with the world. Maurice Sendak, I remember them. Author. Made a lot of famous kids books, I think, right? It's a door. Hello? Who is it? What time is it? Fuck, what time is it? Fuck, what time is it? Shit, 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 shit. We've all been there. Yep, I missed it. Of course I fucking did. So much for not fucking up as a single... fucking up a single thing. Oh, sorry, you're trying to talk to me, right? Hi, sorry for ignoring you. My day's not going well. Yeah, I have VODs enabled. I put all of my VODs on YouTube afterwards as well. It'll take like a day or two because my streams tend to be extremely long and they take forever to upload in full quality to YouTube. Sorry for ignoring you. My day's not going well. Well, I mean, I just woke up. Haha. What I meant is, I'm not in a really jolly mood. It's just been a rough couple of days is all. Just a rough couple of days. Oh, yeah, sorry. I went back. Hi. Alright, what do you want to talk about? Right, you don't talk. That's fine, I can do the talking. I've had a lot of VR chat interactions like this. Let's see. You want to hear a funny story? Okay, so I had a date today. We've met a few years ago at a party. We were both far from the action. We spent the night talking about life and death and loneliness and shit. We talked until the party slowed down. And then we talked until everyone was either asleep or they left. Had moments kind of like that. And then we talked until the sun came out. A few times that I've been at parties before, I'm usually the only one awake. Everyone else is passed out or whatever. And then we talked until the sun came out. I think it's the person in the bed there is talking to me, but I don't know who I am. It was great. After that, we decided we wanted to hang out more, but we found out we lived really far away. Oh man, now this is too real. Had more situations than I can count where I end up really liking someone, but they live hundreds of miles away from me, and then things can never really work out because we're just physically so far apart. Anyway, we then tried to figure out how to talk, because apparently most methods of communication don't work between our places. Eventually, we found out letters do the trick, so we settled on that. Then we talked for like a year or two, just that. Looking for excuses to visit, but we couldn't find anything. Oh, is it getting drowned out? If I Alt-Tab, I hope it doesn't quit. Okay, it didn't. Looking for excuses, but we couldn't find anything. But then, we found out she was going to pass through here today. She was on her way somewhere else, so we'd have about an hour or two to hang out. But I just had to fucking miss the alarm. But hey, I can still make it if I can get ready in about -6 hours. Hooray. Yuck. This is really relatable. Sometimes it feels like I can't do anything right. Like, come on, all I had to do was not oversleep for literally one day. It's the bare minimum, and I couldn't even do that. I haven't been doing a lot for the past few days. Weeks. months. Sometimes it doesn't feel there's anything to do, really. I have to say, this is really well made so far. I appreciate the way that it's written and delivered. It's like unconventional in a good way. Sets the tone well. Like, everything's either too much work or too boring or both. And all the things I used to do, spent so much time doing, that I grew to feel sick just by thinking about them. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad if only I had more variety in my life. Then again, what variety is there to have? The letter girl is the only person who genuinely enjoys talking to me. Nobody really spends time with me. Well, I guess that one is my fault for being late. Huh. Well, I guess the first one is my fault too. I'm not approachable. I make everything about myself. So I get that people don't talk to me. Maybe I could get some variety by starting a garden or something. But knowing myself, I'd mess it all up and become a plant killer, huh? That's not funny. Saw some things just phased in. That looks like my logo, a piece of it. Hello there, Hexagon. Dude, yeah, the looming timer. Here. Okay. Sorry, I'm not in a good mood. I don't really feel like talking anymore. Sorry. I'm just gonna go back to... No, please talk to me more, please. Oh, that synchronization with the clock, nice. So what BPM, I can't do the math, so what BPM would be exactly 1 beat per second? Yeah, like my face is in the game. Oh, 60. I guess that makes sense. 60 seconds in a minute. 60... Alright, yeah. Sorry, I can't even maths. Hello, red thread. People don't know what I'm talking about. This is my logo. So it's like my face is being smeared all over here. It's funny because I know the term BPM, but I never really think about it in terms of it literally being about a minute. I've always just think of it as the acronym BPM. Okay, they awake yet? No. Off we go. Hey, I've been out of school for almost 13 years. Give me a break. It is very satisfying that it goes to the beat of the clock. Okay. Oh. Hello. Apologies, I was not expecting you to arrive so soon. I hoped for a few more cycles at least. Yeah, Dev is in chat right now. If I knew you were coming now, I would have made sure everything was of higher fidelity than it is now. Oh well, poets and poems. Apologies for all the rough edges. I have yet to work out personality generation. Same. Our speeches are all malformed. Granted, some less than others, but malformed regardless. You have to accept that. Hope you enjoy your stay. I've prepared special sounds, sights, and scenes for you to experience. Please do take it all in. And of course, I am gratefully thankful for you to choose to go through this experience in the first place. People like you are... Wait. Do you have one of them? You do. How in the world did you get one of them? You weren't even meant to know they exist until the next scene. I guess it's already done. Good call on having the text invert itself. Because I was worried about the white getting behind the text and I wouldn't be able to read it, but you anticipated it. I guess it's already done. Alright. I cannot lie. This does take things out of order. There shouldn't be anything too hard to deal with, though. Only moving some moments here and there. I should still let you know. You're lucky to have gotten this in a safe environment. And I'm lucky you have no active role in this, lest you smash it or let someone else take it. Now, back to the topic at hand. They're getting the feeling that you're intentionally given a lot of things that you could talk to at any given time, but I'm choosing to invest myself as much as I can in one thing at a time instead of moving on to the next one. So maybe stuff is being like reordered according to how much time I spend on stuff. Now, back to the topic at hand. Our vessels are subpar, to say the least. And frankly, I could not tell you why. I have no idea of what keeps going wrong. But at least they're functional, if only for their voices. My plan was to make this a sprawling city and have it breathe with its inhabitants. You would move through its parks and its buildings, and you would see the sunrise and the sunset. And it would be full, and it would have color, and it would have sound, and it would have life. But alas, all I can seem to create is hollow and black and silent and still. Apologies. I'm afraid there's not much else I can say. I'm not unlike them. I can only talk for so long. I hope it was long enough. But regardless, I would like you to see more things. You don't have much time, and I'd hate to slow you down further. So please move along. Okay, I will make the decision to move along despite there being more options. Maybe I can find the sleeping person again. Ah! It was meant to be. Nope. Well, thanks for the follow, Caroline Dreamer. Caroline Dreamer? Something like that. The creator is saying, if you like the music, to look up Everything Ends in Zero OST. You'll probably find it there. Oh, I was just talking about the person's name. Wasn't sure how to pronounce it. Getting close. Ah. Salutations, lost girl. What do you come to me for? That is, what do you seek? Is that a wine bottle? I shall attempt to help you find it. All you must do is allow me... Hey, it's the song. I see your desire for conversation, although I also note your silence. Still, I should ask you once more, what do you seek? I fear that, despite the senses given to me, I fail to recognize your filter. But I shall still present you my own thoughts if you wish. Oh, they're now invisible. In many ways, the fight between realizing one's desire for self-expression and realizing one's desire for recognition is not dissimilar to how one would choose to light a fire. Let me reread that. The fight between realizing one's desire for self-expression, desire for recognition. Let's see. Self-expression is nearly silent, personal, does not usually travel far. It's akin to coal, burning an almost false flame, low and dim, but for a long time. Recognition, in the other hand, is loud, impossible to ignore, transcends oneself and becomes its own larger beast. It's akin to gasoline, immediate, intense, easily capable of taking over anyone who finds herself too close to it, be it the one who said it or another. True. Regardless, fire is an extraordinary tool for those who need it, but it always requires a vessel. It always needs to be called, and it always needs to be able to appear. And no form is without its flaws. Should one feed their fire coal, keep it burning a... Wait. Should one feed their fire coal, keep it burning a reclusive and quiet, but persistent flame, and risk being consumed by the deep black cold? Or should one feed their fire gasoline, never to worry about the darkness and cold again, and risk being engulfed by the sharp white flame? There is no correct answer. There is no optimal path. Some flaws are without benefits, and some truths do not imply lies. This world is not perfect. It merely mimics perfection. It can only ever approach it. That is also true for all things within it. I'm not my real self, neither are you. We are flawed copies. Some of us are far from what we represent. But with a large enough sample size, one is able to see it, see us. Not as our parts, not as their sum, but as their fusion. You must understand this. Truths, revelations, people, events, they are not additive nor subtractive. All they do is build up to an average. That average, the one with contradictions, the one that is logically impossible, the one that can never truly happen. That is the truth. We reveal the invisible light through filtered colors, distorting the shapes and sizes of the things we exist to show. We reveal the unhearable sound through vibrations from our resonant frequencies, ignoring all pitches that are not as our own. It's very true. This world, along with all its inhabitants and all of its things, is transient. It exists for a purpose, and when that purpose is fulfilled, it will no longer have a reason to be. In all of us, our experiences, our stories, our life, it will all end. Will. Your lungs have not yet fully stopped functioning. Breathe. You are here. I am here. I appreciate that forced bit of a gap after telling you to breathe, kind of push the player to do what you told them to do. I am here. We are here. We are no longer aware. We won't be anymore, but we are conscious. Right now, for an infinitesimal amount of time, we are alive. Probably pronounced that wrong. It does not matter what comes next. It does not matter what came before. No moments other than this one exist. We can only ever live now. Again, breathe through your nose this time. Do you smell that? petrichor. But it's winter. This tragedy has brought at least one good thing to you. All of them do. You only have to find them. You do not have much time. You must be aware of this, truly aware. Become numb to this idea or let it take over you. You will have lived a life of inaction. Uh-oh. But be aware of it and accept its bitterness, and you will have lived a life as peaceful as the still and silent fog that comes during dawn. And maybe after you learn to evaporate the hard and opaque stone walls of habit through that fog, you will see it. And its light will grace your skin, and its heat will make you notice how cold you used to feel. I do not know how you feel about my advice so far. I would like to think that I have opened your eyes to any problems you must have, but I cannot ever truly know. Maybe you believe I'm naive, maybe you believe I'm pretentious, maybe you believe I'm shallow. I know many others do. Do not mind those thoughts. I do not mind being pretentious. This is temporary. The view from above is exhilarating, and I will become humble when I fall. We are all entitled to our thoughts. And my values, my views, they do not necessarily match yours. So I would like to ask you one thing. Seek your own meaning. Seek your own thoughts. All I did was give you mine. They are not universal. Each situation is different. Each shard of each person is different. So go. Seek your own happiness. Wherever you find it, it's yours. But I cannot find it for you. Go. Take that chime as a cue that I need to keep moving. Wait, one more time. Go. Okay. Got 30 minutes. What's this game called again? Let me check. Yeah, everything ends in 0. And it's on itch.io. I feel like I'm moving slower too. Do you like how like visually busy the screen has gotten over time? Yeah, this is some Brent Reznor levels of percussion. Oh. Very tiny person. Oh god, oh my god. Did anyone else feel that? I don't know, it's just, I don't know. Oh god, it happened again, oh no. Everyone stop moving. This is gonna sound stupid. I think there's a ghost here. Oh yeah, there's something here. Hello? What do you want? Do you want to talk? I, come here often? Oh. Okay. Uh, my friends want to talk to you. They're asking you to do something to communicate. If you can. Like, lift the water bottle or something, I guess. I don't know, just please stop doing that. I'm not sure you know exactly what you're doing. What you're doing is you're... Shut up, people, this is important. What you're doing is you're phasing through me, and you're making me feel cold, and you're shuffling my guts every time you do it. And if I puke on this carpet as God above is my witness, I'm going to the shadow realm, finding your sorry ass, and making you clean the stain yourself. Please just move the bottle or the shirt or something. Right. So... ghostly, ghosty, ghost here. Sammy here, that's my friend. She just said that maybe phasing through me is all you can do, so let me make some tests. Some scientific stuff. If you can only phase through me, do it again on the next 10 seconds. Right. That clears things up a little. Sorry, I got mad at you earlier. I realize you're probably like 1,000 tortured souls or whatever. And maybe my reaction was too much. Right. Sammy wants to talk to you. She says, she says, she says, she says, hi. I hope you're okay. And if you are who I think you are, I miss you. And I love you. I don't think I can talk to them. And okay. And I'm sorry I wasn't there for you. I'll never forgive myself. I'm sorry. And if you're not her, look for her for me. You'll see her sitting on the roofs during dawn, looking at the people on the sidewalk. She'll tell you she's waiting for something. So she'll say she doesn't know what she's waiting for. Wait with her for me. You'll see her hidden in the fields between the buildings during the afternoon. She'll be quiet and have her eyes closed. She'll tell you she's listening for the hollow. Close your eyes. Listen with her for me. You'll see her sit by the edge of the forest late at night. She won't tell you what she's doing. She'll look stressed before she sees you. She'll shine you a sad smile when you arrive. She won't look as tense anymore. Oh. Tell her one day I'll look for her. And we won't be alone again. Is that every... Oh. Okay. That's everything, I guess. Frick. Jeez. I hope you're okay, ghost girl. Sorry you, like, died and stuff. Maybe if you phase through me when you feel sad or something, we can make you company by, like, talking to you and everything. What do you think? Not doing this? Not doing this? So I like how... Oh no, like the background is almost completely inverted from what it was. You can't even see the person anymore. They're so, like, lost. Yeah, this is really good. See, now I don't even know where to go. My arrows don't show up anymore. I think I have to go find a colored background. Oh. I don't even know if I'm going the right way. I think as long as we persevere and keep pushing through, have faith in one's own sense of direction, we'll eventually find whoever we're looking for. Wait. Oh. Yeah. Hello, everybody. I hope hope all of you are having a good day. My presentation is called, wait, let me get that. Here. My presentation is called On the Power of Music and Feeling. Yeah, cheesy, I know. By me, haha. Don't even know what this person looks like. Okay. I want to ask you all a question. The question is, what does music mean to you? I'm not really looking for an answer, but I do want you to think of one. Maybe for you, music is something you want to dance and sing with other people to. Maybe it's a way to connect with those around you. Or maybe you use music to calm yourself down, be in the moment. Maybe it's a source of comfort. Maybe you listen to it to place yourself in a different time. Maybe it's a way to remember moments you cherish. Maybe you play music yourself, or you like hanging posters on the wall and using jackets with band names on them. Maybe to you, music is a way to express yourself. Well, I know what music is to me. This classy lady you're looking at is my mom. Hi. Now, if you're a particularly eagle-eyed audience member, you might be able to conclude that she played the piano, given subtle background clues such as how she's sitting by a colossal piano that takes up almost the entire picture. And you'd be right. My mom was awesome at the piano. She was extremely determined. Every chance she'd get, she'd talk about this prize. I'm going to pronounce it wrong. The Cusham Prize for a phenomenal musical performance. If you heard her, you'd know she had to get that prize. Nothing in the world could stop her. So she played every day, starting at dawn, pausing at noon, and coming back at sunset and playing until midnight. She practiced a lot, and it showed. Every single time she was playing and I was awake at home, I'd be there, listening to her, and everything else would fade into the background. Of course, she saw how much I seemed to like her playing, so one day when I was about 6 or 7, she turned to me and asked if I wanted to learn to play the piano too. I said yes. And then she started to give me lessons. I wasn't as good as her, of course, but she opened the floodgates. There was no turning back from that. From then on, I'd wake up before dawn just so I could get to the piano before her and be all smug about it. And of course, she did the only reasonable thing when presented with a smug 7-year-old and started waking up in the middle of the night just to be there before me so she could be smug about it. That's how our dynamic was from then on. I'd follow her steps and learn from her, then try and fail at one-upping her. But I still kept going and I kept trying and trying to beat her in all sorts of musical challenges. Like, I always looked at her shred that piano, her hands dancing up and down the keys, and thought, huh, I could do that faster. Spoiler warning, I couldn't. I could never beat her at anything. Well, uh, writing. Writing this presentation, I wasn't really sure how to segue into this, so I guess I'll just say it. My mom passed away when I was 14. She was on a trip to visit her parents when the plane she was on crashed on a cape in Japan on her way there. It was April 2005. Uizumi, and they didn't find her. If if anyone wanted to know, it it sucked. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I wanted to die. I really did. After it happened, I'd never felt a stronger need to make music. It was the one thing I felt like I had control over. But being near that piano where I used to listen to her, where she'd teach me, where she'd hear and comment on my songs, and having that room be completely empty with nobody there, nobody to listen to me, nobody to teach me, no reason to be smug. It was too much. It was so much I couldn't handle it. So I did the only thing I could think of. I started taking vocal lessons, and I picked up the guitar. And everyone, you all know where this is going, say it with me. I started a pop punk band. Yep. I grouped up my friends and we started making music. I didn't tell them about my mom. We were really good. And in high school, we made an album and we started to make a living from our music and we became famous. And we got, hi. So, long way up, huh? Uh, you want to hear a funny story in the meantime? Okay, so I've always been kind of weird. Like, I never had a whole lot of friends, never was good at making them. Same. And most all of my childhood was spent indoors alone. My parents weren't particularly good at parenting, didn't help me make friends either. I notice there's something that happens when you're a very lonely kid with mental disorders and you're not close to your parents and you're inside all day. You consume media. With me, that was books and games and Let's Plays. So I don't think it should come as a surprise, but I've always been the creative type. Like when I was a kid and I still played with toys, there would always be those overarching stories. It was it was almost lore-like. Toys would only know about certain other toys. There were villain to hero arcs that would take months to complete. And when a character left for one reason or another, I wouldn't play with them again unless I found a good excuse to do so. Anyway, somewhere around 2012, I found a lot of people making videos on this game. You know which one I'm talking about. That game. And among the probably thousands of videos about it I watched, one series stood out. It was a handful of people that were recording a show in the game with mystery and horror and action and character arcs and everything. But that wasn't all that caught my attention. Half of why it intrigued me so much was that it was so amateurish. It was made by, give or take, 4 people, just teenagers, clearly doing it just for fun. Audio had pops, the game's graphics were set to low, and there was this stretched out JPEG of a camera overlay in the top of everything. It was kind of a mess in parts. But it still had mystery and horror and action, character arcs. Yeah, the whole anyone could just record a movie if they feel like it thing seems pretty obvious now, but it blew my stupid 9-year-old mind to smithereens. Suddenly, stories weren't those things that just popped into existence out of nowhere. Suddenly they were made by people. People like me. I could write a story. So I grabbed this big notebook and I started writing a story about me and my 2 friends being sucked into a game I liked and having to survive and find a way out. Not exactly revolutionary, but something. And then I kept writing it, and I never stopped. Slowly, the story stopped being about the game. It started being just about random people who had to work together. And then it started being about people who were different. It started being about people who were different. And then it started just being about people. The thing is, I wasn't really actively actually writing anything. I was just daydreaming, thinking about what it would look like when I finally got around to it. And I want to say that this is because I had this great high budget vision of what my stories would be, and I couldn't settle for anything else. But the truth was actually that I was just scared. Didn't have friends. Parents were distant. I wasn't exactly rich. It might seem overly dramatic, but I always genuinely felt like making stuff was my only way out of this mess, both literally and psychologically. But what if I told the story and it wasn't as good as it had been in my head? What if people hated it? What if I became popular for all the wrong reasons? What if I became the internet's next punching bag? No, I couldn't. It would have been so much, too much. So I didn't write anything for years. I just couldn't stop myself from planning, from dreaming of people and scenes and places and everything. But after some time, it started to weigh on you. That starts to weigh on you. Doesn't matter how beautiful your stories are in your head, they're meant to be told. If nobody hears them, then what's the point? Man, I'm so afraid. I'm so tired. So tired of being afraid. So tired of being afraid what other people think of things that I make. So tired of being afraid of being a failure. So tired of being afraid of doing something that doesn't connect with people. I'm so tired of not making anything. So finally, here's something you can see, something you can read, something you can hear. I don't know what you'll think of it. I don't know how well it'll do. I don't know if it'll be forgotten right after you press quit. I don't know if it's something good, but I know it's something, it exists. I was so tired of it not existing. I was so tired of being the guy who wants to make something. So tired of being a zero. I was so tired of being a ghost. Damn, dude. I'm just reading the credits. Ooh, Zen mode. Can we play as Luigi? But I don't know if anything else is coming, but oh, hey. Hi. Uh, it's me again. Okay, listen. I wanted to kick you back to the main menu after you unlock Zen mode message thing. Give a nice sense of returnal to the whole experience, and the calm, sad menu music would be a great contrast to the intensity of the last few scenes. But I have to say something, and I don't know where else to say it. All right, so God, it's like it's hard to work myself up to say this. It feels weird. So, okay, listen, okay. I worked very hard on this game. Like during the last year, I probably spent 1,000 to 2,000 hours working on this, writing and rewriting characters, writing and rewriting code, writing, rewriting music, focusing, creating, iterating, selecting. And that's not even taking into account the time spent doing things that aren't so easily quantifiable, like planning the events of game and general tone of each part of and the themes and scenes and stuff. Before counting the time I spent daydreaming and problem solving and lore building while I ate or took showers or played games or repeatedly walked in circles in my apartment while listening to music. And it's easy to say that this project was at the forefront of my mind at almost all conscious hours. And please don't misunderstand me. I loved working on this deeply. I'm so eternally proud of this. But it's still work, it's still tiring, it still takes a lot of time to make. And even though I'm okay with working on large projects now, it could turn into a problem soon because I don't have a job. And I'll probably have to look into a way of getting my own money eventually. And if I had a job, I'd eat half my time and all of my motivation. It would eat half my time and all of my motivation. It's already difficult to motivate myself to work on my creative projects without me having a job. Well, that's relatable. If I did, I honestly doubt I'd have the mental energy to have even started working on a project like this. So I propose you a deal. You give me a little bit of money every month, like even as little as $1. Because of your help, I can afford to go just a little bit longer without a 9 to 5 job. Get to make the things I want to make. Get to do large and small and experimental and emo stuff. And you get to see new things you hopefully want to see. Plus your name in the credits. Plus bragging rights. Plus the bonuses on whatever donation tier you choose. Maybe with enough of you, I might even be able to employ people and make much better stuff than I ever could on my own. But I shouldn't get too ahead of myself. Hopefully, one day, this deal will be about improving quality. But right now, this is just an inconvenient necessity for our symbiotic relationship to work. So, what do you say? Do we have a deal? Added a support button to the main menu. Hope to see you soon. All right. I'll check out what Zen mode is here in a second. And yeah, I don't have much to say. I guess I think a lot of my feelings towards it is the fact that I continued to keep going because it was clearly pulling me in. Really enjoyed your presentation and the pacing of everything. I know a lot of people can write off things like this as being pretentious. I know you're self-aware and the character in there saying like, I know this might come off as pretentious, whatever. So many people throw that label onto stuff like this, but uh I think it's really rare that someone is able to create something that they just think about every single day. Like I have so many projects of my own where I think about them like 95% of the time, and then I work on it like 5% of the time. And I know, I mean, I'm not like a full-time artist or anything like that, but I've heard from plenty of people who do feel very strongly about like their creative passions and stuff, how even thinking about money or asking someone to to support you or donate anything is like one of the hardest things for a passionate artist to do. But it's just kind of like it's just kind of sad how how many really creative and talented people there are out there, and there's just not enough ways for them to make an income. I mean, you see so many artists and stuff on Twitter always like, commissions open, please, please, commissions. And like artists making types of stuff they never normally would make because it's like, I want to keep pursuing my passions, but I also need to eat. So I get it. I can see how people would be a little taken away by the end because it is not easy to be like, okay, I put a lot of time and effort into creating this thing, but I kind of, I have to eat too. I know for me, it's really grateful that I recently, well, months, I can't believe it's been, but I mean, I love 3D modeling and stuff, but I managed to get a job where I'm doing 3D modeling. It's not at all creative, but it's like if you can find some sort of career path or like a freelance thing, or like a lot of these sorts of skills are translatable to things outside of just making games too. I don't really, I mean, I'm not like a good at life advice or anything, but like, I mean, clearly I have a really good musical talent and good sense for pacing and writing all throughout this. I mean, it kept your attention just long enough. There were like really well placed pauses between the dialogue, and the fact with like the timer counting down the whole way through, kind of keeps you intrigued all the way through it. It's like, what does the timer mean? What does it mean? And then, without it directly telling you what the timer means, you convey its meaning just through the what was being said by the characters. Like, you could have at the beginning be like, okay, you have 60 minutes until the inevitability of the passage of there's so many ways you could have approached that, but you like kept it held back, and I felt like that was so effective at keeping you going through, kind of making it your own little experience. And the fact that I could have easily missed that dialogue or a lot of the characters because they're just so lost in the big mix up of the visuals and stuff like that. I feel like that's intentional. The fact that you start to lose direction the further along you get, like quite literally in the sense, like you can't see the arrow that's telling you where to go. But I felt like that was intentional, keeping you a little bit of lost. I did miss a lot. Interesting. And I think normally I'd be like, oh, then I'll go back through to go see everything. But I feel like that would kind of go against the point. I mean, people know, like on my streams, like I'll easily sit and go through and try to like 100% stuff. But I feel like, at least what I took from it, is a lot of the feeling behind this is following your own journey, going at your own pace, spending as much time with things that is comfortable for you. So, yeah, I'll definitely link this in chat. Let's see. All right, yeah, here's the link to the game. If anyone has like any questions or comments about it, developer is in chat right now. And yeah, like they said, looks like they have a Patreon. I imagine it is, or I don't know what you have set up exactly. Oh yeah, Patreon. So if you enjoyed it, the options there. Just reading what everyone else is saying. Oh, you're talking about costs of rent and living conditions and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, the music especially was very nice. And I felt like music is one of these very tricky things where you're treading the line of it, giving the feeling that you want to give, but you don't want to be too much. Even someone with a lot of musical talent doesn't want to give it their all for every song. Like, there's a time and a place and pacing, and so. Yeah, I'll just like find the YouTube playlist or wherever you said this was and just like leave this music looping in the background. It's very nice. Oh, and like they said, that there's a lot that I didn't find in here, and you all can take your own direction if you want. Can you link your Discord in here? Sure. I'm gonna see what Zen mode is real quick, just because I'm curious. Oh wow, okay. So we got, oh, is this like developer mode? Arrow keys, control plus arrows, automatically move, shift, zoom aware movement, kinda broken. Zoom in, zoom out. Dang, you have like every key on the keyboard is bound to do something. Q, W, E, A, S, One, two. Oh wow, you can mess with the globules. Reset how hard the edges are. How quickly time passes. That's profound. RTY. Oh, you can add your own music to this if you want. Huh. I make the blobs. Oh wait, blue, red phase. Can I get them all like color separated like they were before? RTY. Wait, did I do something? Whoa. Is there a way to, can I just like browse through the game's music from this view? That would be cool. Use the separate folder that's for only this part. Ah, yeah, you're only 20 years old. Damn. Makes it even more impressive. Doing very compelling stuff. Such a young age. Which I'm sure you're probably really tired of hearing. Oh, geez. Oh, God. Oh, I don't know, a lot of these buttons don't seem to do anything. Unless it's really subtle and I'm not seeing the change. You're young until you're 34. Hey, I'm 34. But I've honestly felt old my entire life. A lot are exponential and start out very small. Oh, I see. What was that? I find something? It's kind of funny, like throughout a lot of my life, I've had very few moments where I want to feel younger. I think my whole life I've always wanted to be older. And now that I am old, I'm like, this is all right. Which I know the only part about age that I'm not looking forward to is just, of course, the breakdown of your body. But other than that, I just like, I don't know. I've never really desired to be youthful. A lot of the game's inspiration is from a point in your life where you had a shit ton of death anxiety, daily panic attacks and stuff. Yeah, I can see. I mean, it really sucks. Like, I think everyone, yeah, everyone experiences it differently, of course. Everyone has their own way of handling and coping and all that, but like, I had my own phase kind of like that. And definitely not trying to demean anyone else's story or anything, but I know for me, it was mostly about like continually feeling disappointing to my parents. Not that they ever had high standards for me or anything, just more that they just simply wanted me to have friends and to like get along with someone, have a companion. And I just would face all kinds of like feelings of isolation and exclusion just constantly. So I just stopped telling them about all the sad stories I'd have and attempts at finding companionship and any kind of close relationship. So I just don't even tell them anymore because I don't want to put that burden on them. So they think everything's going well, which it is. I mean, I'm not like in a crisis state or anything, but it's just being in your mid 30s and still not having like a, life companion after all these years kind of wears on you. See, the shapes are getting more color separated. And see if I can increase time again. I got really flickery when I did that. Oh, oh, need a body pillow in the meantime. Oh, I have pillows. That's good enough. Don't get trapped into finding someone that isn't right. That's kind of, yeah, how I've been facing it. Like, I've become so comfortable with being alone that it's kind of dangerous because I'll feel like, oh, I'm fine to be fine being alone. So if something doesn't work out with someone, I'm like, oh, just back to how things have been most of my life. Nothing's really changed. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. But I'm under the impression that I would so much rather be alone than with someone who makes things worse. And I mean that can mean just about anything. But I think in general, people really need to be comfortable with being alone because don't mean it in like a pity points way, but honestly, like being being okay, being content with your own company, being comfortable with silence, with like inactivity and things like that, I think can go a really long way in life at helping everything else feel better. Obviously, it's not an easy thing, but because time and time again, I'll see people like they'll be out of a relationship or their best friend will move away or something will cause some important relationships in their life, whether it's just friends or family or whatever, to suddenly be very far away. and they just cannot handle it because they've become so accustomed to having the company of others that to have to go back to being alone again is like the most dreaded feeling for them. So, um, and I mean, being alone too is always have a bit of its sadness to it too, because I mean, humans are, as much of a solitary person as one may think of themselves as, like humans still are herd animals. That there's still a level of like companionship or just feeling of like kind of an unspoken feeling of like all that I've made myself out to be in life, to have someone there to non-verbally tell me that it was worth the struggle to get to who I am today, like that feels great. Someone doesn't even need to explicitly say it. Like if someone likes being around you for who you naturally are, you don't feel like you have to change anything about yourself. That's like a huge compliment because it's like, all the insert current age here, all those years that you spent building your personality and all the struggles and all that, it was worth it. You did it well. And I think that's what we're all looking for. It doesn't help that there's billions of people in the world because you can always think there will always be someone better. There will always be, because there's just so many people. Statistically, there has to be. There has to be more. But then you can kind of fall into that trap of being like you're in your lifelong search for something that you might not even find until like it's too late. So there's the dreaded feeling of compromises. And I always think that nobody, like I think that soulmates are just not a thing. Like to constantly be looking for someone who's perfect. And I know this is really cliche, but it's just like if you're, everyone's idea of what perfection is, of all of that, it varies person to person, of course, but great. Now the music is, here we go. Now the music is making it feel like I gotta say something more profound. I guess it's just, there's always a level of compromise when it comes to companionship. Like there's a big difference between just friends, someone that you may talk to just online or maybe in person or something like that, and someone that you would actually feel as like a companion. And I think it's fair to be really picky when it comes to like a companion. Like I know I have just as many qualities in me that other people couldn't stand to be around. And then there's qualities other people have that I couldn't stand to be around them. But there's so many people I am totally fine talking and just being friends with people that I don't have stuff in common with, but like a life companion, I think you can afford to be picky. And you shouldn't expect another person to fill the gaps that you're missing. Sorry, this is like cliche after cliche, but a lot of it's true. Because you don't want a dependent relationship. I know it's easy that if you're in a situation where you're feeling like, there's this one piece of my life that's missing. I need someone to fill what's missing in my life. I feel like that's a really dangerous direction to go. You don't want someone to fill something that's missing. Like bringing someone else into your life should only ever add to what you're already happy with. Like they should never put all of that burden on someone else to be the one to make you feel complete. Like those are some of the worst cliches. They're like, oh, she completes me, he completes me. Like, no. Fuck that. They add on to what is already a happy life. Lovely music. I am seriously, I'm just gonna like add this music to my playlist. Trying to put together a playlist of kinds of music I usually play on stream and stuff. And this fits really well. I can play your music on stream. Yay! You're not gonna the DMCA or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, I'll put the recording of this stream on YouTube, and then I'll see it's been claimed by Aeden Universe, and now I going to court and owe like $1 million. Like it was all a trap since the beginning. Yeah, if your record label or whatever was like Sony of Japan, that's like the equivalent of getting like nuked from orbit. If you play anything that is covered by Sony of Japan, that VOD is gone. Yeah, I'm gonna rap over it. See you in court. Yeah, there you go. Oh, you have a Patreon tier where you have stems and project files. Oh, that's nice. Oh yeah, and if it wasn't obvious, this will be the last game I play tonight. I don't think any other games could kind of come close to the tone that this one set. And plus, it's like almost 6 in the morning. So, and luckily, it's only Sunday. Yeah, if you even say Sony of Japan, they'll know. Because I had a recording from a VR chat live music thing that was going on. And I had the video set to private. And I was just going to share the link with a couple people just because there was a cool thing that happened. And even that tiny little clip, like every song was just claimed by dozens of companies, especially Sony of Japan. They make it so you can only listen to the song if you live in Japan. Like it said blocked countries, and it showed like 100 and something countries on it, all except Japan. Like, wow. They clearly understand the way people listen to music on the internet. Right. Great, now what do I do? I guess in a future stream, no idea when or if or whatever, something I really like to do again is novel AI stories. Because I like reading stuff. And I got some people saying that they really enjoyed the novel AI stream I did like a year ago, which I can't believe it's been that long. But what I'm trying to do is put together an efficient way for me to switch out ambient sound and music. But I don't want to download everything locally because some of the ambient, like just wind and interior spooky noises and stuff are some of those are like an hour long, and if I download all those locally, it's going to be like gigs worth of music just for like a one off. Well, not one off, but just for like a little thing. So what someone recommended is that I put together a YouTube playlist, one of the ambient sound and then one of music, and then just use two of those tabs. Because previously I just had like 1,000 Chrome tabs open and had like frantically flip between them all, which kind of takes me out of the mood if I'm like, oh no, wrong song. No, that's not right. And spending all that time. And Novel AI, for people who don't know, is a writing oriented AI that is the most intelligent one that I've seen. And people like me who aren't very talented when it comes to writing, it makes me feel like I have talent. And it's like you can change the way in which it writes. Like it has so many different methods. So you can get it to be really descriptive about the environment. Like I remember we tested it a little bit the last time I streamed it because someone knew a lot about novel AI in the chat and were like, oh, you should try this. And I think it was like I set a story on like, oh, we got astronauts on Mars. And they're like, oh, the so and so just woke up in their capsule. And we set the AI um to be as descriptive as possible. So we couldn't leave the room. I kept trying to give the prompt saying like, and then the astronaut approached the door, pulled the handle and opened. And the AI was like, but the sounds, the feelings, everything that was holding us back from making us think about in which time exists and the like the smoothness of the shapes of the room, and it's like we can't leave the room. We're just like trying to be as explicit as I can. I just couldn't stop describing the room, which is funny in its own way. I'm glad you can run into that problem. It's cool. Or there's ones where it just never stays, and you can balance it out. Like it's about trying to find a good medium between everything. Oh, hey, Lugnutto, thank you for the two person raid. Um, and I know Novel AI has also gotten into some trouble with some stuff. Yeah, Novel AI. It's a web-based thing. They did get in trouble. What was it for? It was some because I mean AI art and all that has kind of been under the spotlight lately because it's just like, oh, you're I don't know, that's a whole other kind of annoying discussion. Some of which I agree with, some I disagree. I did see people were saying stuff like, "Oh, like I think they based it off of an open source AI platform. People are like, "Oh, I can just make my own and then charge money for it." Like there's a free version that you can use, and if you pay, I think it like allows for more words to be involved in each prompt or something like that. Well, because Novel AI is text, but they added a image feature if you want, which Stable Diffusion is an image generating thing, right? Or does that apply to text as well? I don't really know how that all works. So my fingers is really tired from holding right. What if I held still between the boundaries? Yeah, and I don't think I would use the image generation. So I think so much of there's auto walk. That's right. Uh, oh, I had it for a second. Wait. control. There we go. Nice. Um oh, so for people who don't know, yeah, novel AI, you start typing a prompt and you just say like literally anything. You can say just a couple words and then let the AI just take over and make something out of that, or you can be really detailed and have write an entire page worth of stuff or paste in an entire page, and then it will try to add on to what you wrote based on all the context of what you wrote. So what I really like to do is to try to create just spooky stories, not necessarily like horrifying, eldritch abomination kind of like over the top stuff. I try to figure out just interesting, more subtle approaches to stories. I mean, nothing that profound happened in the previous ones. Like, what was one of my past stories was like, for one, the AI needs to be sprayed down with a hose from time to time because they every time in the story it came across a woman, it would immediately start getting like extremely perverted in like describing the way the woman looked, and it just turns everything into like a sexual encounter. And it was like I was trying to make a spooky story. I was like, all right, I'm in an abandoned, or yeah, I'm heading home from a vacation, but it's getting late. I should probably stop somewhere to spend the night because I'm too tired to drive, and head down the hallway, go into the room. But then I hear a voice crying across the hallway. I approach the doorway and I see a woman sitting alone in a dark room. And then all of a sudden the AI is like, she had beautiful, long, like golden blonde hair. She's wearing nothing but like her underwear, and she's doing this and this, and she looks over at me and beckons me to get closer. It's like, come on. So I had to like delete big sections. You're like, no, she seems very dangerous. I probably shouldn't get close to her because she probably has a knife. And I just like had to keep dehorning the AI. Yeah, it's probably just based on how a lot of people write about women, and it's just like, this is how humans act. You're the person that sent you. Oh, oh, that's awesome, Aiden. Yeah, and that actually, nice. I remember you now. It is Aiden, right? I'm not like completely mispronouncing anything. So I guess what I want to put together for that stream are just a bunch of like, uh, I am mispronouncing it. Is it Aeden? Mispronouncing in the way everyone does. Well, I'd like to pronounce it right if I can. Yeah, I'd like to put together a bunch of just brief prompts about what the beginnings of interesting stories. AE is an I sound. Oh, we had this discussion on another stream before where it's like, so Aiden, is that it? Aiden? It might be an American English versus British English thing. Oh, Auden versus Aiden. A and fast. So Aden? Aden. Like I'm adding up the cash. Okay. Like I remember in college where we had a bunch of um, international students that came in from China, and they all picked their like American names because they knew so many people wouldn't be able to pronounce their names. And I thought it was really funny that names that a bunch of them chose. It was like there's three guys, and they're around my age at the time, so it would have been like early 20s. And so they chose Bill, Ricky, and Rondo. I thought it sounded like a comedy trio or something. Rondo. Yeah, Rondo's the one you gotta look out for. I ended up talking to Ricky a lot more because he was a very like introverted, soft-spoken guy. Rondo definitely fucks. Probably did. But I don't think I've ever had a moment like this in my life when I was talking to Ricky once, because this was like my early college years, still going from high school, which I really hated high school, a lot of bad experiences going into college. So I was still trying to like transition between having no self esteem to having a little bit of self esteem. But so it's like my sophomore year of college. Well, anyway, that one time Ricky walked by when I was in a studying group for some class, just a bunch of people that were in my class I didn't know very well. And we were just talking. And among a group were, you know, men and women. And one time I was sitting by myself and Ricky came by and he sat down by me and he's like, um, well, my name is David. And he's like, so David, like you seem like you're really good at talking to girls. And I thought he was joking. And he was like, I wonder if you can help me talk to girls better. And the whole time I thought he was kidding and he kept going and he's like, no, I'm serious. There's like this girl in this group and I just don't know what to say. Like, is there something that will get her to pay attention to me? So suddenly, me with like a load of loneliness and solitary, no self esteem guy is like trying to give another guy advice on talking to women. I was like, what? But I said, like, I don't know, just talk to people like, just like anyone else. Like, don't, if you're just meeting someone the first time, everyone is just a person. It doesn't matter. Any other aspect of them doesn't matter. Stuff doesn't start to matter until you actually get to know people closer and closer. I think, I don't know what I said at the time. It was probably bad advice. I don't know. But um, it's like the minute if you first meet someone and you immediately point out some aspect of them that really doesn't matter for the situation at all, then they'll be like, oh, I know what this person's intentions are. And then they'll probably be thinking bad things about you. And then you're off to a bad start. Talk, talk to people like they're people. Forehead. Just talk to people like they're people. Which honestly isn't sarcastic, but it's just, whatever. It's 6 in the morning. Um, but the sun is not visible through my window, so it doesn't feel like morning. I don't believe the time is what it is until the sun tells me it is. Oh, and 20 minutes ago, thank you for the follow, Forgetting. Your lizard lights are turning on. Yeah. It is weird just how much the internet social media, dating sites, just all of this has so heavily influenced the way people interact. I know this is no startling discovery, but like, I can't even imagine anymore how would how did people ever find each other and get along, and how do you marry someone if you're only exposed to people who are like within your immediate vicinity? Like my parents, they married after like months of knowing one another. And it's because they worked at the same place. That was it. Whereas like these days, you have access to so many more people than you will ever have time to talk to, or who will ever talk to you. Or it's there's got to be like some really long German word to describe this, but it's that feeling where you're walking down the street and you see just all these people. Like maybe this person walking the opposite way could be like the most fulfilling, like perfect companion for you. Like this could be the one, but it's just not the time. It's not the place. Something about the environment, about the your mood, their mood, all these factors just don't allow it to happen. So it's not going to happen. It's just that feeling of like, it could be this, it could be that. Like, what if? And you just can never fully figure out when is the right time? What are the right words? What you feel like you're constantly missing out on opportunities. So now, even though I've come to terms with knowing that like dating apps and things, despite having been using them for like 9 years now or something, definitely not going to find, well, most likely not going to find anyone I have anything in common with. But it's still a very like educational thing to every day be able to see a few dozen people, what they look like, how they choose to represent themselves, how they describe themselves. It's like I don't even really look at dating apps anymore as potential trying to meet people apps. It's more like my daily education on how people are these days, I guess. Yeah, Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. I'm sure there'll be something in there. I did have a relationship that went almost 2 years that started on a dating app. So I don't think it's like, oh, it's impossible, but it's just, we've been using them for like 9 years or so. It just starts to become like a, I don't know, it's hard to take it as seriously. Then it's like, oh, I'm in my 30s though. I'm not forced to be in school. I work remotely. There's no situation in my life where I am put around other people my age. Like I live in an area where there's tons of people kind of around my age. I mean, I'm a little bit older because I'm in a college area. So vast majority of people are just too young. It would feel way too awkward to be someone that much younger because they're all like early 20s. But then it's like, okay, where are people in their 30s? But you just like run into these, like me personally, run into contradictions constantly because it's like, um, and this is definitely a me thing where, for me, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't like do anything. I don't identify as like straight edge or anything like that. I hate that term. I'm fine being around people who drink, whatever. I really don't want to be, in a close relationship with someone that smokes at all. But, and this is where this contradiction happens all the time. So I like paranormal stuff, spooky stuff, like true crime, just all of that kind of this general intrigue by like the weird and the surreal and thinking about just abstract and strange concepts in life. I love all of that. but there's a massive crossover between people that love all that stuff and are like really into recreational drug use. So it's like it's very hard for me to find someone who both likes all that crazy nonsense of surrealism and horror and crime and things that are interesting like that, and they're not really into like recreational drug use. It's like it's so hard to find that combination of people. And I've questioned myself over and over again. I'm like, it's like, do I really feel strong enough that that should be like a red flag for me if someone is like an active smoker of any kind? For a lot of people, that's totally cool. Like, I'm sure there's plenty of people in chat, or if they met someone who's really into smoking weed or whatever, and they like spooky stuff and all, that's like great for them. I mean, cool. It's good for you. But like for me, it's not. And it's such a big struggle. Like if I'm just friends with someone that smokes whatever substance, that's fine. But it's just when you're trying to set up something that could end up being a long lasting relationship of some kind, and I have something that I like, I don't like being around that, that's gonna inevitably wear on me over time and could create problems later on. And then you can overthink stuff, and then you just get into that whole deal. And then there's the other thing too for me, where it's like, obviously I love video games. I love, like, video games are like the most valued art form for me. I mean, I don't play that many, but I read about them, I watch them. I guess I'm streaming them right now. I do all these things every day. So that's a very important part of my life. So I can safely say that, in a partner, they should at least have an appreciation for them. Like, I'm not a gamer, not like, oh, you got to play Valorant with me or something like that. Like, I don't care about that at all. But to at least appreciate them as an artistic medium, not even just as art, but like, you got to not hate them. Because I've definitely ran into people that just like see no value in them. They just see it as like a toy. Like, oh, he still plays games and he's 30. Like, jeez. Like, I don't want to run into that situation again. But so, okay, yeah, I value games, but I'm in my mid 30s, and just kind of the way things were is that, like, I'm interested. I don't know why I'm saying all this on stream. Whatever. It's nothing bad. I'm just straight guy, boring old straight white guy. And a lot of women who are in their 30s probably didn't grow up playing games. And that's no fault of their own. It's just like it was pushed on guys way more in like the early 2000s and stuff, and targeted towards guys. So it's just a lot less likely that women in their 30s have any value towards video games. And so if I'm trying to find people around my own age that kind of enjoy that type of thing, it's so much less likely. Like, I've ran into so many people, like, I'm online and I'm just trying to organically meet people online. And I'd be like, oh, we have all these things in common. Like, oh my God, like they love video games, they're like really intelligent, or they're like artistically talented. Like, all these things are so great. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm really enjoying being around this person. Like, and they're single. And it's like, oh, by the way, I'm like 19 or 20. I'm like, no, why? Can you please be 30? And I mean, the older you get, it's like it becomes such a more difficult thing to relate to younger people. I mean, this is like the most cliche old thing ever, but like, I feel like everyone who gets older, you will be frustrated or run into situations where you just feel like you can't connect with the generation below you. I know this is probably extremely obvious, but it's like, I can be like, oh, I don't understand this TikTok and all your, you're hitting the gritty and all this shit. I don't get it. I do actually kind of understand all that stuff, but I just don't care because it's just, that's not really my generation's thing. But it goes a lot deeper than that, though. Like, I've been like pretty close with people that are even just in their like mid 20s, and I still feel like a 10 or more year difference, it's still kind of like, you know, I mean, obviously they absolutely need to be over 18. Like, I'm not questioning anything about that, but just the difference of around 10 or more years really starts to show the more time you talk to someone. It's like as you get older, some of your fondest moments and things you like talking about are things that happened in the past. Like you bond over what once was, things that you once enjoyed, to like revisit something that you used to like and to share that kind of bond. Like that kind of inevitably happens that way. But and then if there's someone who's like still living that moment, like they're still making these memories. Like they're not really thinking that much about the past, because a long time ago for someone in their like early 20s is like, oh, way back when I was 18. Like that's like 2 years. Not that it's any less valid, but it's like when you're in your 30s and you're like, oh, 15 years ago. Like, you know, the older you get, like the bigger time difference really, you feel it in conversation. Um and yeah, I know, like I'm just reading what people are saying here. Um And I think, you know, everyone kind of thinks about this too. Like when it comes down to it, you're just thinking like, what is it that you want out of life? Um, and that's like a profound question that I think most people probably never figure out their entire lives. And I don't even really know. But I'm just thinking like, in what life situation would you be most happy to exist in? And it can be a lot of things. And I was just thinking, like, well, I just want enough money to pay rent. I don't care about living a lavish lifestyle. I don't care about any of these, you know, stereotypical like rich person goals or anything like that. Just to be a decent place that I can support myself and to not have to worry about money and just to be able to make things that I want. Like I don't really think of myself as like a starving artist or like, oh, I need to, you know, I need everyone to see my work and stuff. I mean, there's a lot I want to make, and it'd be cool if people see things I'm working on and all that. But it's a lot harder to put it into words. But so I guess what I'm trying to say is like what I'd want out of life is just to not have to think about money and to just be able to at my own pace just make things and maybe have a companion in life that I can like hug every once in a while if that's okay. That's just like the cherry on top would be to also be able to share that life with someone else who feels a similar way. That's what people used to have rich patrons for. Yeah, I know like in art history class, that was something I never really realized is that I know this is like a total subject change, but like a lot of really well-known artists from like the Renaissance and stuff like that had very wealthy people that supported them and like allowed them to keep doing what they want to do. And you don't really hear about that. Like they needed to pay rent and all that shit too. It was just a different time, a different place. Like a lot of some of the most famous works of art in the world were like commissions. They didn't just like make it out of their own, the complete own need to be creative. Like they're making a living. Fell asleep. What did you miss? All right, I'll summarize the last three out now. Uh, the universe provides you the provides you just have to stay your path with an open mind. Yeah. Our generation is going to have giant anime boobs in museums. And this is going to be incredibly condescending sounding, but I think people can relate. We talk about red flags and green flags when harshly judging people, especially on dating websites. But people have been talking about beige flags, where there's a beige flag is when someone just signaled that they are really boring. It's kind of ironic of me to judge someone else for being boring, but um and now I think about it, and here we go, extremely condescending, but when I go through dating apps, all I see is beige. I'm like in a desert, and I'm just desperately looking for green. Like anything, please. And of course, that means very different things for men and women. Like for like this sounds dystopian, but like for women, it's like, okay, I hope you don't kill me. I hope you don't ruin my life. I hope you don't, like huge, trying to avoid extremely traumatic, like life threatening situations. And for a lot of guys, it's like, okay, green flag or red flag for a woman would be like, oh, she doesn't like Italian food. Yeah, I'm not going to talk to her. But, and of course, it's not like, oh, guys, have it easy. Like, I don't think it's a contest. Like, everyone has to deal with really shitty people in their own ways. But largely, like someone was saying, most dating apps are for people that just aren't looking for relationships. They just want uh, one night stands or hookups or whatever. So you got to fish through all of that and look for like the one person that will have an account active for 24 hours because they'll get swamped with a million messages because they aren't one of the hookup people, and other people looking for relationships are all now hounding that one person that isn't just looking for like a fling, and then you will be forgotten or not even considered because they're already responding to 500 other messages. What did you tune into? Well, as you see, there is a ghost figure moving from left to right across the screen, some bright colors. Um, oh, and of course, I think like all of this, but I mean, okay, it's the thing about streams. You know, streams for a lot of people are, at least in my case, I know, but even I know like people like Vinny and have talked about it too. It's like it's a way to express your own life troubles and views and interests in kind of a disguised as a presentation. So you're all being fooled into learning about me. Like no one asked for that. I'm just imposing this onto you all. So you're like talking amongst yourselves and we're talking about bigger subjects through me as a vessel. Fooled you all into reading my autobiography. And this is like a big thing too. It's like I just have to find better ways to word things. It's like maybe this is more of like an introverted sad nerdy guy thing, but it's like constantly get a feeling of guilt. It's like if I'm interacting with someone, I'm automatically assuming that they probably don't really want to be talking to me and they're just kind of you know, flattering me, or they're just being polite, just being nice. It's like, well, I guess, you know, pretending to be nice is better than dreading talking to you. But like in the Midwest US here, pretending to be nice is becomes like a chronic thing where people are so afraid of any level of confrontation or stirring up even the mildest bit of conflict between people that they will go to great lengths to avoid conflict. And sometimes that might seem nice. It's like, oh, you know, people in Minnesota are like really nice to each other all the time. But a lot of times it's because you're just trying to you're trying to avoid making anyone feel even the slightest bit of discomfort. It's just the ending of MGS2, maybe. Um, and when I'm saying this, I'm not like I don't feel like this is a chronic struggle of mine, but it always comes to mind. And I think as I've gotten older, I've come to understand that it's worth the risk of making someone else a little bit uncomfortable if it could lead to us both feeling better about ourselves in the end. Like, I know I remember having a case once where it's just like some girl I didn't really know that well, that I think I worked with her. This was a long time. It was like, I don't know, 7 years ago or something like that. I thought she was interested in me, and I was just like, hey, would you like to go get lunch later or something? And she's like, no, I'm sorry, I'd rather not. I hope you understand. And I was like, okay, and just moved on and just remain coworkers. And I'm glad that we just moved on because I think that's a really bad trap to run into of being in denial about someone turning you down because they'll take it really personally. Like I know a lot of guys struggle with you know, their ego being fractured if someone turns them down. Like I know, I mean, yeah, you're saying, oh, it's just lunch, you know, WTF, but there's a lot of like unspoken communication going on. Maybe I'm completely making it up. I don't know. But just erring on the safe side, she wasn't actually saying, "No, I'm not hungry. Try again another time." I think she could feel that I was trying to get to know her more. Uh and she wasn't interested in me. So I just played it safe and was like, "Okay, I tried." And you know, it hurts a little, but it's better for both of us just move on to the next person. Because there's billions of people in this world, and I'll probably only meet 0.0000001 of them. I like how the music just kind of intermittently comes in and out. Yeah, girls get often accused of leading guys on. That's the thing. It's like, I mean, this is a very like harsh generalization, but it's like, from what I gather, it's like women face a lot of like rejecting others. Like you spend a lot of your life trying to be as polite as you can, like turning people down because like oftentimes you're getting more attention than you want, or it's the wrong type of attention, and just like spending so much time turning people away and trying not to get confrontational and end up having a really scary, aggressive guy that won't leave you alone kind of thing. Whereas like a lot of guys face life being rejected. So it's like matter of doing the rejecting. I mean, both. I'm not saying you only experience one or the other. You know, both sides can experience both things, of course. And there's more than just two sides. Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of asterisks on everything. But from my experience, I've spent so much more time being rejected than doing the rejecting because it's just. I think that's just part of life. It's like, and learning to gracefully be rejected is another valuable skill. So here's takeaway lessons from the stream is learn to be happy by yourself be happy with solitude because it'll make rejection not as painful. And I guess it kind of goes along the same lines. And to not be afraid of rejection. Can't be rejected if you're too uncomfortable with yourself to date. Well, yeah, I mean, then there's that too. And honestly, like even though I don't stream that often, and it's easy for me to say because I'm privileged to have any audience at all, thanks to people like Vinny and like Vidya Bum and Desert P and all those people that have all we've all shared audiences and be able to have people. But what I want to say is streaming like this really does help you understand yourself and to learn how to speak. Like I remember back in, before Twitch pretty much, I was a DJ, like a radio DJ for a radio station, like an analog one over the air. And that experience really helped me learn how to talk when nobody's listening or to talk even though there might not be anyone listening. And then like if anyone out there, if you're ever considering streaming, it can be a really helpful thing even if no one watches. Just if you like playing games, just put on a game, start your stream. It's not that hard of a thing to do. All the software's there. It's all free. Just play a game that you like. Don't be afraid to get a microphone and talk. Yeah, Twitch is paying me for this, guys. No. And just talk out loud to no one. Like people say, fake it till you make it. I don't think I've made it. I don't ever want this to be a career, and I don't think I could, even if I wanted to, but it really helps you understand yourself to just talk out loud. Like if none of you are in chat right now, and I'm just talking about things that I enjoy in games, being like, oh, I thought it was really cool how in Skyrim, how this character like does this. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll install some mods, make it a little interesting. Like it's just like there's so many different ways in which you can help yourself, to help learn about yourself, your own patterns, your own ability to speak. A lot of people don't know how to talk. Not that there's any right way to do it. It's like you could like just the thought of being face to face with another person and not having something to talk about is like a horribly anxiety inducing situation for a lot of people. Um, you're a bartender, all you do is talk to people. Well, there you go. I mean, that's like your own way of learning how to talk to people. I think that's another valuable skill too, is to be able to talk to people that you probably will never see again, don't have anything in common with, but just to, be people together. Just develop telepathy, easy. You stand out on your own, you bring your own thing, and it's nice to catch you. Well, thank you. Oh yeah, I definitely talk about myself or talk yeah, I talk about myself, but I talk out loud to myself all the time when I'm alone. Not like a not like a no kappas, but not like a crazy thing where if someone overheard me talking, be like, "What is this guy doing?" And he's having like a full blown conversation. It's just more like anytime I'm thinking about something, I'm always like, I try to explain what I'm doing right now to myself as if I was giving a presentation. Like I was trying to learn a new thing in Blender, and I'm like, if I can think about how I would present this information to someone else, how would I do it? So it's like, oh, so if you're trying to create this sort of detail when you're sculpting, you can bring in these sort of brushes and you bring them over here, but you might be able to use it in this situation. I'm saying all this out loud. I rave about the commies. No one's listening. Yeah, maybe all of you were actually like, I forgot that I had bought a like novel AI subscription and it just puts bots in your chat and they take the place of all these names and it's just generating what I want to see. It is interesting too. Yeah, like I was just reading what you were saying. Oh no, where's my mouse? Who said it? Oh yeah, Maddo Scientist. Is that it really is like it's weird the dynamic that is pretty uniquely live streaming where like your guys this sounds like super narcissistic where it's like your audience is kind of an extension of yourself. Like people wouldn't hang around and keep watching any stream unless they could relate to something. Like you'll go into any chat. Like if there's a streamer who's really loud, really funny, is always kind of on top of the latest memes or whatever, and you'll see that like their chat is a lot like that as well because it's like you wouldn't hang around or I guess you wouldn't participate in chat especially if you didn't relate in some way. Like I don't think I've ever banned anyone in this chat that wasn't like a bot. I'm grateful for that. And it's cuz there's only like what 65 of you here or something like that. So it's manageable. Like if I suddenly had to manage thousands of people in a chat, I would probably I don't know, ban a lot more people, but oh, you work in customer service and you have to talk to people and read situations all the time. Yeah, if you're forced to interact with other people, even as much as it sucks, it still is, I think, an important skill to learn to have. If you ban all the bots, then where would we go? Haha. True. One of the bots that I banned is still in chat, apparently. It says they're on my list. And their name is DSUVDFCDHFKU. And the only thing that they ever said, let's look at their chat history. Only they ever said was, good stream for you viewers primes on mystream.store. Nice. Okay, imagine a future now that we have this music. You know how because someone said CAPTCHA in chat. It reminds me of something I thought of once. You know how we already have CAPTCHA where it's like, please click all of the red lights. Please click all the stop signs. Click on the sailboats and things like that. Now, I think not far off from current year, we'll have bots that will give us pieces of conversation and it will ask you, how would you respond in this situation? So it'd be bots learning how to interact with people and it will maybe be like some kind of emotional advice. Like someone will say, you know, I just recently broke up with a significant other and I'm having a really rough time and I'm wondering you know, if you'd like to hang out or something, but if you don't, that's okay. And then the bot would quote that text and it'd be like, how would you respond to this situation? And then you sit there, you know, you're trying to just like log into Gmail or something like, I don't know, I guess like just like call them and be like, hey, do you want to just like talk on a like voice call for a while and then maybe link blah 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 and then click send. Okay, now I'm in Gmail. All right, what do I email? You know, it's just like bots are slowly just going to start asking humans how to respond to illogical text, because you're not giving them a task. It's like a very opinionated, emotional thing. So it's like, so they need to learn. So that's the future of CAPTCHA. How do you give life advice? The AI wants to know. Yeah, the bots are very gradually going to move on from how to understand, how to read roadways and intersection signals and all that. They're going to move on from that to how to realistically pass the Turing test. Inevitable. Oh yeah, Commander Root is here. That was I barely remember. Commander Root was like a instrumental in stopping the huge like hate raids that were going on in Twitch for a while, where just like hundreds of bots would flood a chat. And like that one moment, which I'm sure has probably been exaggerated over time, but there was where people were following, I think it was Apple Maps, given a certain route to a place, and a whole bunch of cars all drove into the same like hole in the ground because Apple Maps was not aware that a road had been destroyed or it had been demolished at some point and was rerouted somewhere else, but people still unconditionally just followed the directions exactly, even when it led them into a hole in the ground. I feel like we're not that far away from people being completely reliant on technology to guide them where they are, that AI can, if it messes up a little bit, like, you know, smart cars, or not smart cars, but, you know, like self-driving autonomous vehicles, they'll just take us wherever they want. Like, imagine it becomes a regular thing for people to sleep in their self-driving vehicles. Like, I'm gonna go to work in the morning, I'll just sleep in my car, and then you wake up and you're in a warehouse with like hundreds of thousands of other smart cars of everyone else waking up at the same time. You have no idea where you are, how you got here, but all these cars were directed by someone to all keep us in this warehouse, and you can't get out. So keep that as a prompt. A prompt for future novel AI stream. If they all drive into the same hole, eventually there will no longer be a hole. Yeah, true. Sacrificing many for the one. I think nobody needs a flying car because 2 dimensions is enough for the average person to be in charge of. That if you give them a 3rd dimension, that's way too much. Because you're just driving, you know, forward or not forward. Forward, a little to the right, a little to the left. But if you're like, okay, now your verticality matters. I mean, obviously there are like private plane owners and stuff, but oh, did you miss all the gaming? Yeah, the stream was actually a lot longer than 4 hours, 40 minutes, because the stream went down a couple times because the game I was playing kept like exceeding my memory and it was crashing OBS. It was a fun game, but it kept crashing my streaming stuff. So the VOD got split up, unfortunately. But I can't think of any reason why you would need a flying car. Like, I guess if parking becomes such a huge problem that that parking lots need to take up more than just flat space on the ground, we need to start like piling them up more. But even then, there's already elevators, car elevators, and parking ramps, and it just seems completely pointless for the average person to have a flying car. Yeah, there these sorts of things are becoming common. Like I'm trying to move to a different part of the city in the near future, and one of the places I was looking at has a ton of negative reviews specifically because they have this like car parking machine where the entirety of the parking is done vertically, like it goes all underground. So you drive your car into this platform, and a robot like moves the car and it sorts it way deep underground into a big vertical storage structure. And all the reviews are saying what you could imagine is the problem. It's like they say only live here if you don't have a car, or don't live here if you're not okay with the idea of not being able to access your car because the machine to be needs to be fixed, or it needs a maintenance person, because if the machine goes down, your car is like actually stuck and inaccessible underground. And I mean, the reason they do that is so like you can fit more into a smaller space in deep cities or in crowded cities. So you don't have to have a big parking lot that takes up a ton of space, that you could just have the entirety of your tenant parking be underground vertically. Go like 20 floors underground. You've had a job. Well, first of all, welcome. Serendipity Esco. Oh, serendipity. Yeah. I had a job that had to do with AI training, and they've been very personal. This examples being here. I'll read it first to myself. The task was the correct response to that, and even given the rewrite to make it more acceptable. So you've seen AI could therapy. Oh, so the AI would have initially the right idea, but it would need to be edited because it wasn't an acceptable way to respond to something. So it's like humans need to treat AI to understand like unspoken rules of communication. I mean, it could be misinterpreting, but yeah, we still have time to prevent the AI uprising. Honestly, I'd be totally fine with that. Hey, I'm already almost to midlife crisis. If the world goes to shit and it's the result of an AI taking over the world, that's a pretty badass end of the world scenario to be involved with. I'd much rather be involved with something like that compared to like, oh, a disease wipes everyone out, or oh, some kind of major change to the atmosphere happens and we don't have enough oxygen and everyone just dies horribly because of atmospheric changes. Like, that's boring. Need a huge meteor that instantly destroys everything, or some kind of like robot AI uprising. I don't even know yet what would happen, but I know it sounds cool. Actually, maybe it could suck because an AI, if it's in charge of basic utility infrastructure, an AI uprising could be somehow the intelligence has determined that all electricity needs to be shut off to the to your state, and it does not want to turn it back on, and nothing can get it to turn back on. Then that would kind of suck. That's not like a cool sci-fi movie version of an AI uprising. I'm thinking of like robots out in the streets in like hand-to-hand combat. That would be more interesting. It's boring if it's just like, oops, robot turned off your water, turned off your power. Oh well. And I still think it's much scarier to not have access to water than it is electricity. Like I've had tons of moments where I've had power cut out or I didn't have power for like a whole day. It sucks. But when you suddenly don't have access to water, it's genuinely scary. And I even, live in a densely populated city and not having water, I'm like, "Oh, I can only use the toilet once." And I can't refill the tank to make it flush again because I don't have any water in the faucet. Like, oh, I don't have any water stored. I don't have anything to drink. It becomes like really scary. Like I would easily go like, well, okay, not easily, it would suck, but I'd rather go a month with no electricity than like a week with no water. Like I right now I have several gallons of water stored for that kind of situation, but you never know. Oh, and I do live right next to the Mississippi River. So if I'm down for drinking fish water, I guess I have that. But I can't watch a YouTube video oh, I guess if I had electricity, I could. But I was going to say, like, oh, but how am I going to know how to make a filter out of a broken water bottle and charcoal and gravel? And yeah, the blackout a couple of years ago in Texas and not having water, not being able to get it from any stores was panic inducing. That's right. Yeah, just start a stream and ask chat. Yeah. Um, yeah, and it's very obvious, but like water is so much more important than I think a lot of people realize. So many common ailments that people face day to day could be drastically improved just by drinking more water. Like I remember like my mom was getting really bad headaches for like weeks and she went to the doctor and the doctor's just like just drink more water. And she started drinking like double the amount of water she normally did each day and the headaches went away. It was just like water is just so important to like everything. I mean, no shit, but and I'm really fun at parties and very exciting person when I can come out and say that all I drink is water for the most part. Like 95% of what I drink every day is just a jug of water. I don't drink coffee or tea or energy drinks or I mean nothing against anyone that does, of course, but it's just like just never had the urge to. I don't really like the taste of it, but just water just by itself is so great. And I think I'm lucky that I live in the part of the country where our tap water tastes really good and it's been like recognized for such. So I think it comes from Mississippi River or one of our many lakes. Great ones. Only other things I drink are just um I drink naked juice, which is a bit in the morning. which I know is very high in sugar content, but I don't drink much of it. Get it for the vitamins. And unsweetened almond milk. And I might move on to oat milk. Milk. Sorry. Just joined. What is this ghost game? Well, the game ended hours ago, but it it caused a lot of nice discussion. And Aeden in chat here made the game. It was a really good game. If you want to, I recommend looking back in the VOD. And I'm going to have this on YouTube. I think I'm going to put this game in a separate YouTube video too. And then I'll group all the other ones on their own. And then the Evercraft online is going to be its own video too. And they have a Patreon. Am I holding down right this whole time? No, I was made aware of that I could do control plus right arrow and it continually moved to the right. When am I going to add rambles to my playlist? Well, actually, if you've been watching my YouTube, I've been leaving chapter markers on my videos for when each game starts and when there's a big tangent. Because I noticed that some games I was misrepresenting their length because 3/4 of the duration of the VOD was me talking about completely unrelated things. So I've started adding tangent about a particle accelerator in Japan for an hour and a half. I don't know if that was an accelerator. That was like some kind of weird particle physics, dark matter detection chamber, neutrino detector. Yeah. Hmm. Now, what else? What haven't we talked about? I think we've talked about everything, right? All of life's questions have been answered. We've established world peace. Didn't even need Ringo Starr to assist. Peace and love. When do you think I'm going to stop being a streamer? I don't really think of myself as a streamer. I occasionally stream, but it's not like not a regular thing. I mean, I'd be really sad if for some reason I no longer could stream, but I feel like this concept is so important to society that it would exist in a different form somewhere else. If Twitch disappeared, it would just someone would remake it somewhere else and people would move there. I don't see this ever just disappearing. Thank you for the follow, Antoine. When will I be able to deadlift 600 pounds? Well, I can do I can do one of the two things mentioned in deadlift. I have to be a surprise which one happens first. I should do a podcast. I'm already doing it right here, the stream. Here's the next leap in technology, dead streaming. Now, wait a minute. I remember I went on a big conversation once about this where I really think in the distant future that there could be a concept of dream streaming where people are able to, in real time, transmit their brain waves to the followers of people that subscribe to their dreams. So people will go through all kinds of conditioning and like a certain diet and all these things to refine the way in which they dream. And people they'll gain followers because they really like the way this person dreams. Like maybe one person dreams of really kind of surreal, like almost hallucinogenic like dreams. Or maybe people have really sultry, naughty dreams. And you could subscribe to that person. So everyone would get together before going to sleep. Like there would be a wake awake stream before the stream happens. Everyone would be sitting there, the streamer would be on camera, they'd have their like head scanning device, their brain scan stuff set up, and to be like, all right, I'd like to thank all of my followers again. Thanks for the Dream Stream support. Subscribers will get a 5-minute dream preview of tomorrow night, and the stream would begin by the streamer saying good night, and then collectively the dreamer and all the followers will all go to sleep to be sleeping together, all around the world. And that person's dream is all transmitted to all of the other people, and you're all experiencing the same dream at the same time. It is very, yeah, hypnospace outlaw like. Yeah, imagine trying to enforce TOS violations in a dream. Like I think a dream is just one big TOS violation. I think that is the ultimate virtual reality is um one that just completely overrides all of your sensory organs and just gets straight to the point. Like cut out the middleman of your eyes and ears and nose and mouth. Just go straight to the brain, manipulate the brain. That's the best way to change reality. Go straight to the brain. Do you think I would dream stream if it was a possible thing? I don't think anyone would care because they would be so, the dreams would be so personal that if other people experience that dream, it would be like, what is this cliche shit? Like, it's just, oh, I get it. You're sad. Oh, you're so lonely. Whatever. Grow up. It's like, oh, well, I don't know. It's what I dream about. Yeah, look at this loser's subconscious. Unbelievable. But I feel like, in day to day life, that thinking something is so different than doing something, than acting upon those thoughts. Like, I think everyone at some point has thought about things that are really bad, harmful, illegal. Right, guys? Right? Right? You've all thought, no. But the difference between thinking and doing is so big that all of the worst people are the ones that cannot separate their thoughts from their actions. I'm sure people have really hated someone and they're like, God, I wish they would go away forever. God, like, disclaimer, I don't think I've never hated anyone to that level, but I'm sure some people would think that and like, oh, I hate this person so much, I wish they would go away. And if someone could see that thought against your will, they'd be like, oh, this person needs to go to jail because they're going to do something that they haven't done yet. They thought about doing it. That's enough to throw them away because they thought it, but they never expressed it. So I guess thinking and expressing and then doing, smaller jump between thinking and expressing, but even bigger jump between expressing and doing. Yeah, the government will shut down dreams. They'll actively emit some kind of dream suppression field that like modifies your neurological structure so people can no longer dream. Yeah, thought crimes, exactly. you So you're looking forward to the next Mario game, and in your dream, you think about Mario, and then Nintendo cease and desists your dreaming because you're thinking about Mario outside of their designated platform. Other people make money off of your dreams. Oh yeah, well I stole your joke, Matto. That's what happened. I should credit you though. It's much more clever. Like there's an interesting concept. I don't remember where it was brought up, but it's this idea of willing something into existence, where something only exists as long as people are thinking about it. So, in order to completely destroy something, everyone has to forget about it. But how do you actively forget something? If you think about forgetting, you just remembered it. I guess drugs. True. Yeah, lobotomy. There you go. Oh, I think the idea came to mind because I was thinking about the game, the Blackout Club. I could go on and on talking about that. That had a concept of the deities in that game. To say their name is to give them power. So people who had adversarial voices, voices that they did not want to give power, they would never say its name out loud. So part of the way to fight these adversarial voices is to not even think about them, to not mention them. I thought that was an interesting concept. I mean, I guess similar to like Harry Potter, where it's like, he who shall not be named. It's definitely not an original concept. It's just an interesting thought to me. But man, Blackout Club was a hell of a trip. And it's weird to think that the story of that game has just ended, despite it being a game that can live on forever and you can keep playing it and everything. But just because the story was written and performed in real time to its players, and it just canonically has it ended like last year. That was such an interesting experience. I really hope they go on to make more of that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, I've gotten to the habit where right after I wake up from a dream, I'll try to just say what happened in the dream out loud. And even just by saying what happened, it really helps you remember it. Because we talked about this earlier, but I'm pretty sure, I don't know if there's science to back this. Um, but I think the reason that dreams are hard to remember is because your brain treats them as bad info because you didn't actually see anything, you didn't actually hear or smell or taste anything in your dream. It's just your brain like fooling around with itself. So when your brain wakes up and it realizes, oh, none of that actually happened. This is not important to your survival. Disregarded. It just throws it away and replaces it with real, credible info given by your eyes and ears. It's like, this is the real deal. Thank you for the follow. Case of apples. So it's like I say, like if a crime happened, you can be like, oh, I saw the guy run away. That's it. But if you saw and you heard people screaming and saw the guy running, suddenly that's a more memorable, credible thought because more of your senses are in agreement that, yes, this did actually happen. Maybe if you spoke to the person somehow, then all of a sudden there's that adding on to it. Yeah, I think it's because your brain usually only causes or only, I guess, writes stuff to long-term memory if it had an impact on you in some way. Like you can, it doesn't even necessarily be directly about survival. Like I still remember, oh man, this music is really setting the tone now. Kind of not exactly fitting what I was about to say, but really sappy. But I still remember in second grade, the first time in my life, a girl said I was handsome. And I remember my response was, why? I was like, why'd she say that? But I'll never forget that. That's not necessarily critical to my survival, but it was a piece of information that had a profound impact on my mind at the time, and I guess it's just remained there ever since. Now this music is like telling a different tale. Maybe there's more to this story than I'm leading you all to believe. Yeah, it happens all the time. Ooh, getting some Silent Hilly kind of percussion going on here. Yeah, it's been all fake the whole time. And for those that don't know, like virtual reality is a really important thing to me. And I spent a lot of my life, well, I guess just a couple of years, but I've done a lot of professional and just fun in my spare time stuff with VR. Like I was a technician for The Void for a while, the really big real life VR venue that had like 12 locations and they're partnered with Sony and Disney, and it was a really big deal. It was an amazing thing. It was almost a dream job to me, and And believe it or not, the pandemic like just killed the company. But so VR is really important. But I learned so much having given thousands of people in my life so far, thousands of people, their first VR experiences, and watching how a really wide range of different types of people, how they all react to VR. And it's been so interesting and just eye-opening. And one of the biggest takeaways I get from all of it is that people are like people's brains are way more they'll way more readily accept a an illusion of reality than you'd think. Like a lot of people look at VR equipment and like it's just a screen next to your face. It's not going to look real. Or they'll put a headset on and be like, "Oh, it looks so fake. Like this isn't real." But a VR experience doesn't need to look realistic for it to be convincing. Um, it's just the thing that makes VR compelling is the way it responds to your body. Like you can have just a really colorful, abstract environment, but if your head movements, like if you're able to just behave how you would in real life in this virtual world, your brain is way more willing to accept what you're seeing as reality. It's not to say like, oh, it's indecipherable from reality when it happens. It's not like that. It's just that it's much easier for people to forget about reality when they're in a virtual reality. And and a lot of examples to give of this being the truth is that I remember I was a part of a local VR meetup where it would just be a group of like 30 or 40 just people in Minneapolis here and all just interested in techie stuff. And it just happened to be that VR was the big tech thing of the time. This was back in like 2015, 2016. And some of the first headsets that I'd ever had exposure to were at this meetup. And there was a guy in this group who was really shy and like never talked unless someone came up and talked directly to him. He just wasn't a very talkative person. And when he put a headset on for the first time, we were playing Tilt Brush. Like Tilt Brush is like the 3D painting app I think Google bought. And it's really cool. It's one of the coolest things in VR, I think. Playing Tilt Brush. And when he had the headset on, he became so vocal and was like loud and expressive and just moving around. And like he's just having so much fun in it. And he just changed completely when he had the headset on. And then once he turned the headset off, some of us were kind of laughing at it, like, whoa, geez, I guess he's having a good time. And he got extremely embarrassed after that. Once he realized that he was kind of like making a fool of himself, not in a bad way, but it's just he would never normally behave that way. It's like when your brain is so distracted by technology like that, that people are like willing to like set reality aside. Like it's like a captive environment. I've been slowly learning that if I watch a video in VR, I'll take in the information of that video so much better than if I'm just sitting at my computer looking at a monitor. Because when it's on my monitor, it's very easy for me to be like, oh, let's look at Discord. Oh, let's look at my phone. Oh, all these distractions. But like when I'm in VR chat and if I just sit alone in an instance, I'll put a video on a video player and I'll be like sitting, I'll have like full body tracking. That's not that important to this, but I'll have full body tracking on, be sitting down on my real life couch, one to one with a virtual couch. I'll put a video, and I feel like my attention is so focused on it because like it VR holds your attention captive because that's all you can see. And especially in our current year, it's we have so many distractions in day-to-day life that like VR is a good way at holding your attention. You have a hard time doing that because a Quest 2 isn't very comfortable. You don't have a good place to do VR. Well, I think Well, I don't have a Quest 2, so I don't know exactly what it's like, but I think it's really important for people to spend time learning how to adjust their headsets to their heads. That's a big thing that gets people turned away from VRs, because like they'll have one experience at like a friend's house, and like the friend's headset is adjusted to that person's head, and then the person will put it on and they're like, oh, it's so uncomfortable, it's putting too much pressure on my nose or on my cheeks, and they're like adjusting it and doing all these frustrating things. And even if the game itself was fun, they'll remember it as a bad experience because just the physical straps on the headset were so uncomfortable for them that overrode everything else that they could take away from that experience. So I think the comfort of a headset is way more important than I think people give it credit for. Like I spent practically like an entire day when I got my Vive in 2016 just adjusting the straps and trying to balance it out just right. And the biggest mistake most people make with straps on a headset is that the straps that are on the back of your head need to go a lot lower on your head than people realize. People will just barely strap it over their face, and too much weight will be put on their eyes and cheekbones. Like if you can't breathe out of your nose when you have a headset on, it's not adjusted right. Like that's a good, if you come to realize like, oh, why am I breathing out of my mouth so hard? It's usually because the headset is not adjusted and it's putting too much pressure on your nose that you just out of habit breathe out of your mouth because your nose is being blocked. So that's one thing. But yeah, so a thing I always do out of habit now is I always pull the straps on the back of my head like all the way down as much as I can, and then loosen everything, and then just move the headset around in the front of my face until it's a clear image without letting go of the back of my head, and then tighten everything, taking into account the focus of the lenses and the straps on the back of my head. And of course, everyone's faces are shaped differently. It's not could be like a one size fits all, but it just don't underestimate the power of the straps on a headset. It can make or break an experience for you if it's uncomfortable. It can just give you a headache. Like if my headset's too tight, I'll get a bad headache. So I always have to loosen it up. Oh yeah, and all the videos of people just falling over with headsets on, like they try to lean on a virtual table and they just fall through it. Or because I was running a a VR installation for the Super Bowl, American football, when it was hosted here in Minneapolis. It was for the Dairy Association, just Midwestern things. And we had a VR experience for the Dairy Association, and there was believe it or not, a cow in this experience that was way out of bounds. And there was this little kid who had to, I don't know, be like 7 or 8 that had the headset on. And as soon as he had the headset on, he sprinted towards that virtual cow, like into a crowd of people. And I remember I had like a miraculous swoop of where I like put my arm in front of the kid's chest at like just the last minute before he like yanked the whole laptop off the table. Like I saved it from doing that. Um, and I remember the person that was there running the installation with me was like clapping, like, wow, I should be a dad. No. Um, I was saving the technology, not the kid. But it was just that convincing to him that he's like, oh, I see a cow, I'm gonna go do it. Like it didn't even question that he was tethered, that there were real people in front of him, that there were obstacles everywhere. Just immediately accepted the VR as real. Yeah, and there are a lot of things, third-party add-ons for headsets to make things more comfortable. Like with my original Vive, the straps that it comes with aren't the best, but there was something they introduced later called the Deluxe Audio Strap, which adds kind of like a ratcheting, like knob that you twist, so you're not reliant on like yanking back Velcro. So I just twist this knob, and it like equally uh, like has springs and adjusts it all around. It's way easier. Prescription lenses for your Oculus. Nice. I've always heard of people doing that. I'm very privileged that I am nearsighted. I can see fine with things up close, so I don't need to wear my glasses with a headset on. But when you say your Oculus, are you talking about the Quest? Because there's like 4 different Oculus headsets. Oh, you said Quest 2 earlier, I think, yeah. And that's another misconception too, is that if you can see something that is like 2 inches away from your face, like just take out like a book or something, if you can read text that's 2 or 3 inches from your eyes, you'll be able to see a headset fine. Because people are like, well, how will I see far away things in a headset? Well, that's part of the illusion, is that you're actually only looking at screens that are very close to your eyes. It's not real. So your eyes have a way easier time seeing stuff in a headset than they do in real life. You read about your eye strain fix. Let's see. Last year you had really bad eye strain. You could barely use computers anymore, and you played a lot of VR, and it completely fixed the eye strain. I've I've heard of that kind of thing where uh this isn't quite VR, but there was a story online about a guy who had some kind of disability when it came to depth perception. Like he has had 2 working eyes, but something in his brain he couldn't perceive depth or some weird thing like that. And he wrote an article talking about how the first time he saw a 3D movie at like an IMAX theater or whatever, like his brain just something clicked in his mind, and he said it was like a life-changing experience. Something about the way that 3D works, that type of 3D, like with I forget what it's called, but it's like where the glasses that you're wearing are just 2 differently polarized filaments or whatever, and the screen has 2 overlapping projections on a specific type of silvered surface, and each one of your eyes is seeing a different projection, which is how you like recreate depth. And so for him, by watching a 3D movie, it like completely changed his ability to perceive depth. Like I can't even imagine what that would feel like. Like imagine seeing a color you've never seen before. Just you couldn't describe it. Like you just have to be that person. Your eyes are slightly misaligned. It doesn't matter 90% of the time, but in 3D movies you see a shadow over things. Like I don't I don't know if I have it quite to the extent that sounds like you do, but I know my eyes are pretty asymmetrical. Like there's photos of me online, and it used to annoy me, I guess. I'd be like, "Oh my god, my eyes are like looking in different directions, or they're like one's lower than the other." And I thought it was like, "Oh, it's so weird," but I guess I've kind of learned to embrace it. Like, I don't know, I'm just weird. I guess it only fits that I look weird too. But what I'm trying to say is that I think wearing headsets, when I put my Vive on, I have to like rotate my headset slightly, like roll the headset to the left a little bit in order to align it with my like asymmetrical eyes. So might have a similar situation. Yeah, and that's one of the most frustrating things ever too, is how um like when I was face to face with people, putting headsets on them, adjusting things for them, being like, hey, does this feel more comfortable? Is anything hurt around you? Should I tighten this? Should I loosen this? You could get all of that done in a really quick time because you're physically in the same room together. But if like I'm watching a stream and someone is trying their like index on for the first time and they're like, oh, it's just so blurry. I don't get it. And I'm like frantically trying to save this experience for them in chat. I'm like, okay, well, you might need to, move you might need to tighten the headset a little bit more and become a little bit more in focus, or okay, no, you might need to rotate it. You might need to tighten this. You might need to loosen this. Right? Adjust the IPD adjuster to go in and out. Like there's so many things that could fix this for them, but they're not going to sit and read all that, and it's going to be hard to do it. Whereas if I was in the same room as this person, I would just go up, grab their headset, and like move it down a little bit on their face. Like, is this better? Move it up a little bit. Is this better? And boom, there you go. Tighten it, done. I know they should pay me to go to their house and to ensure they have the best VR experience they could have. I don't know if this is necessarily VR related, but I had a bizarre experience with this one woman where it's like the way that we set up our past tense sad face, the way that we did set up all of our equipment at the Void was it's all completely untethered. All the computers were in backpacks and you'd walk freely around like huge multi-room size spaces with like real physical walls to match virtual ones. And we had transducers, which are like vibration creating speakers that are underneath all the floors of everything that create senses of motion. We had fans and really intense fans too for more feelings of motion. We had scent cannons for smells in the rooms. We had air bursts and water sprayers. We had heat lamps. It was like a full-on theatrical production for a VR experience. But anyway, to prepare someone for all this, all of our rigs, the computer backpacks, are up on like a hoist thing, where they're dangling in the air like a backpack, and the person would back into it, put it on, and tighten all the buckles, but there's no weight on them at this point. They're just tightening all the straps, pulling things, tightening it. And then there's the moment right before they go in where we take them off the hook, and then suddenly all the weight is on their body. And usually in that moment, people are like, oh, and they kind of like stand upright and be like, okay, I need to tighten this a little bit more, and then they keep going. But this one woman, she was, I don't know, like in her probably late 40s or something, and she was pretty, like, just didn't seem really weak or anything like that. But when I let go and took her backpack off the hook, she just like went completely limp and was just like fell to the ground. She didn't completely fall. I managed to catch it just in time because as soon as I started to unhook the back, I saw that she was just like gonna fall over, and I was like, oh, are you okay? And she stood back up again. She's like, yeah, it's fine. So I hooked her up again, and she's like, can I go? I'm like, no, I gotta unhook this. So I'm gonna unhook it. Are you ready? Okay. She's like, yeah. So I unhooked it very slowly, and she just went like completely limp again and just like practically fell to the floor. But she wasn't perceiving the fact that she was just falling over. She seemed totally fine with it. I was just like, what is going on? And no one around her seemed to react to it like this is just what she does or something. It just reminded me of like like when how some cats, or I think puppies do too, like where a certain part of their neck, if you grab onto it, where they just sort of drop their body because like their parent carries them around or whatever. It was kind of like that for her. It's like something about that weight going on her back. It's not even that heavy. Like this isn't like a crazy amount of weight either. Just caused her to just lose all muscle ability, and she seemed unfazed by it. And still to this day, I have no idea what was happening with her. She eventually just agreed to like, oh yeah, I think I'll just sit outside. And like, okay. So he just took all the equipment off, and she just went and sat outside while everyone else went through it. Just no idea what that was about. Well, she hadn't even started the experience. Like, she didn't have a headset on. The headset was still, like, the visors were flipped up. It was just the weight of the equipment on her, which was like 15 pounds or something. It's not that much. That was too much. It's just weird. But the worst of all are birthday parties with little kids, especially preteens. Those are the nightmare scenarios because they wouldn't listen to anything. We'd be talking to them over, like, you can override their headphones. And they're technically old enough to go in our experiences. They're tall enough so we can't like turn them away. But we'd be saying like, please do not run while you're in the experience. Stay with your group. And they'd be running around, they'd be like shoving each other around, they'd be like shaking their, you know, multi-$1,000 backpacks. And they're just like, oh, dude, they're just not listening to anything. It's like, god damn. Those were the worst. Like, we'd have to have all hands on deck to handle like one group of like 12, 13, 14-year-olds that were just insufferable. Still can't believe that's a real place where people go into a place and wear VR. Yeah, it's well, I have photos of me working there. I got to keep the uniform because they went bankrupt and I had no one to give it back to, so I kept it. But yeah, it's just, I think like thevoid.com. Let's see, is their website up? It was down for a long time. And they're no longer in business, but I think they're trying to do something else. Okay, no, thevoid.com is not their website. I think it's voidvr.com. Is that it? Oh, I think they just have a new website. I think this is it. I know you guys can't see this, but the Void VR. Oh, it is thevoid.com. Weird, I haven't seen their new website. The co-founder of the company follows me on Twitter, and he liked a tweet that I made once, just saying. And they're hiring. What are they doing? Oh, our openings. Sorry, we don't have any openings. Oh, okay. But to get a better idea of what this whole thing was like, just image search and do like the Void VR, and then do images, and you'll see people. There's still most of the images are like concept images, not how it actually ended up being. Well, we hosted the first official Star Wars experience. Yeah, I guess that is true that this is one of the few VR experiences out there where you could actually run around freely in VR. Like, you're not tethered by anything. And some of the like maintenance stuff that we did, it's like a surreal experience. Like, I had moments where I would just stop and be like, I'm living in the future right now. Like, this is crazy what I'm doing. Like, some of the calibration things were like straight out of the Matrix, where we would we'd like put everything into a calibration mode where the whole digital experience is completely white, and there would be this like dummy, like virtual like wireframe dude standing in the middle of the room, and we looked down at your hands. Like, we had finger tracking, like controllerless finger tracking. Was using the leap motion. So it was using like a camera to look at the depth sense your fingers. So you'd look down at your hands, and your fingers all had different colored like wireframe spheres at your fingertips. And you would go up to this dummy, and the dummy would like hold out like a finger with a certain color, and you'd match your color with it. And you'd like play this weird little like almost patty cake like game of color matching, and it would calibrate finger tracking for accuracy. And then there'd be these little physical LEDs that we'd place around the room, and in VR you'd walk over to them and like touch them, and all the cameras would synchronize, touch them, cameras would synchronize, because the room is just littered with like 24 tracking cameras or something. So no matter what angle you were, you would always be visible, and no matter what's blocking you, there's always a camera that, an IR camera that can see what you're doing. And then there would be the stage calibrations, which was like you had this big like sci-fi looking device, which is this a really tall like flagpole kind of deal. I guess that's about it. It's a more like a yardstick or a meter stick, but like twice as long. And then it branches out and like it forks out in the two halves. And this entire stick is covered in LEDs. And we'd have to coordinate two people to do this. Or one person would be at our home base looking at the computers, and he'd would turn on specific cameras, and then a person would have to physically walk through holding this big like sci-fi staff looking thing, and you'd march through one square at a time, and then calibrate each camera on there, and then you'd like wave it around, and then wave like pitch it up and down, then rotate left and right and be like, all right, camera 24, and then move it left and right. All right, I think camera 23, 26. You'd be like talking back and forth. And I was just like, this feels like I'm living in a sci-fi movie. All of these things that I'm being paid to do as a career. And then like repurposing the room where we'd have all these proprietary tools that were used for assembling and disassembling all the physical walls around. You'd have to calibrate like air blasts. One of my favorite things though was calibrating the transducers. Like I said, the all of the floor and the entire room, which we had two of these, the entire floor were all on like mega bass speakers. Like that's basically what transducers are. Like you don't hear them, they just create intense vibrations. So we had these like iPad kind of things that we'd carry around, and we could manually enable and disable each of the transducers. So you could change the intensity. So you could just be standing in one spot, and you like you'd like flip one switch on and change the intensity, and it would like vibrate at such a level that like your bones would, like your skeleton felt like it was going to leave your body. It was like so intense. Brown note, I don't think the brown note's real, but it was kind of a similar thing where it's like it was such an intense vibration that like your bones could feel it. Yeah, maybe it was just my skeleton telling me that it's time to shed the mortal coil. I mean, everyone's time comes eventually. Why not now? Sign up today. Skeleton Army now recruiting. Graveyard shifts. God, there's just so many stories and stuff that come out of it, all those experiences too. Just people that were really critical of VR, didn't think they would like it, and they'd go in and they'd come out and just be like I don't even know how to describe what just happened. They'd be so blown away by it. And I can safely say that having given thousands of people VR experiences in my lifetime, I have never had anyone throw up. That's always one of the number one fears. People are like, oh God, I'm gonna vom. Oh, am I gonna get sick? Am I gonna do this? It's like, it is not nearly as common as you think it is. People will see it and they're like, oh God, that you're gonna have a screen on your face, that's gonna make me sick. I mean, there are people that do get sick, so it's not like it's an impossibility, but it is way less likely, especially with modern VR. So I wouldn't, if you're new to VR, I would not use an older model headset. Anything like before 2016, I would not use, because like modern headsets have so many measures in place to make sure that it is as comfortable as you can get it. So it's like the headset technology itself will not make you sick, but experiences that you play in the headset could make you sick if the devs just didn't care about comfort, which there's a lot of them out there. Like one of the safest and interesting VR experiences, like a good first time, is a thing like Tilt Brush. Like Tilt Brush is only room scale. So there's no like teleporting around, there's none of that kind of stuff. And it's just very comfortable. You know, it's art, just drawing with your hands. It's something everyone knows how to do. Just hold the trigger around and draw. Yeah, my first VR experience, well, very first was a roller coaster, which is like the worst thing you can do in VR because it takes control away from you. And then I had a VR guillotine. So I had my head cut off in VR shortly after the roller coaster. And I kind of want to find that guillotine again because that was actually a hilarious experience when I think about it. And that was on a dev kit, Oculus Rift. And nobody will remember this, but I'm one of these nerds. What do like actually that the sickness that people experience in VR is not motion sickness. Actually, the opposite. And it's something called simulation sickness or just VR sickness. Because motion sickness is when your body is actually moving, but your eyes and brain disagree. So, like, you're on a boat and there's waves like moving your body all over the place. So your sense of balance is really fucked up because it's like you are moving, but your eyes are kind of deceived because you're on a boat that's kind of balancing things out, and like your eyes and your body are in disagreement about what's happening to you, and that's what makes you sick. But in VR, your body is not moving, but your eyes think you're moving. And that's where the sickness comes from. So it's a difference between if your body isn't moving and your eyes think you are in VR, such as like on a roller coaster. Like if you're doing a VR roller coaster, it will most likely make just about anyone sick because you're not actually moving. Your body thinks you should be feeling acceleration, deceleration, but you're not. Um, and so I usually just say VR sickness. I mean, no one's gonna care. Like, they'll know what you mean when you say motion sickness, but as someone who's invested a lot of time in VR, I feel like it's my duty to clarify the facts. Your sickness went away when you got foot tracking. That's another thing I've heard too. That's interesting because it's like there's a lot of weird little things that can make VR comfortable for people that you might not have thought of. Some people just simply standing up when they're doing anything in VR feels better for them. Even if you're not necessarily walking around, just standing in VR can make you more comfortable. Or there's a comfort mode a lot of experiences have where it does like a vignette, like a kind of a shadow around your vision when you move to try to lessen the amount of like feeling of motion through your eyes that can make things feel more comfortable. Google Earth VR has that, if you want to see what that's like. Google Earth VR is also one of the coolest things that you can do in VR, I think. And like you said, just having your body represented in VR can also make you feel better. It's like an anchor point. Like I can be really just rapidly and unnaturally spinning all over the place in a VR experience. But if my eyes have somewhere to rest, something that isn't moving, I can feel fine. As long as I have like a crosshair or my VR hands for my eyes to focus on. You got rid of your sickness by using the locomotion in Half-Life Alyx. Yeah, that sort of teleportation method is a more comfortable form of motion. And also there's when moving, like in VR chat, the movement is intentionally very clunky because it's the acceleration and deceleration is what makes you uncomfortable. So if you're just instantly moving and instantly stopping, that'll alleviate a lot of sickness for people. Because think about it, like when you take off in an airplane, when you start moving in a car, you have that kind of like lurching forward feeling in your stomach. You're like, whoa, we're moving. Okay. You know, your body thinks that should be happening, but it's not. So you get sick. So that's why you just don't even visualize acceleration and deceleration, and your body will generally feel better because of it. Swinging your arms while moving around is also alleviated. That's nice. Good to know that that helps people. Yeah, like reading in cars can be, yeah, in that case, that is motion sickness because that is like your body is actually moving. But when your eyes are fixed on reading a book or your phone, it kind of fools your body into thinking that you're not moving, and when your body's like, wait a minute, what's going on? Vom. And what I heard, the reason for evolutionary reason for that is that your body thinks that you ate something that is having a dire effect on your senses. Like you ate a poisonous mushroom or something, and it's making you vomit because it's like, okay, you ate something poisonous, get this out of your system. So it makes you throw up to get rid of whatever is causing this. But you, in reality, you didn't. So it's just an unfortunate evolutionary thing that we have to deal with. Yeah, when a game takes control of your view, that is a big no no. And I'm really grateful that nothing has ever made me actually sick in VR. Like I'll have experiences where I like, okay, this would probably make someone sick, so I can sense it, but I'm really happy that I don't get it. Like my uncle, he can't even look at a monitor of a first person shooter game being played at a distance, and that makes him sick. Like I remember he'd be on in the back of the room with someone playing, I don't know, like Halo 1 on TV, and just that motion on a screen is enough to make him feel sick. It's not VR. He's not even playing the game. He's not even in front of the TV. It's just some people have it really, really bad. He's someone that plays a lot of games too. It's weird. Like he plays World of Warcraft all the time, but he says the only way he can play WoW is because of the third person orbit camera. He would not be able to play it if it was first person only. Oh my god, it's almost 8 now. I think there's only a couple people remaining in chat. You guys are the winners. You get the gold, the bronze, the silver medal. You survived. Yes, serendipity. Thank you for stopping by. I don't think it was 12 hours because I started streaming at like 10 my time, I think. And it's like 8. So it's almost 12. It's probably like 10. But my longest stream ever was streaming Half-Life Alyx. Oh, no, no, no. It was streaming please don't touch anything VR. And that was a 14-hour VR stream with no breaks. And that I think is still my longest ever stream. And that wasn't just sitting talking, I was playing a game the whole time. But there's no record of this, but I did have a stream that was like 30 hours once because this is before I had any following at all. And I left an idle game running just so I'd have a recording of it. And then I no longer have the recording. But it was that game called Mountain by David O'Reilly. I just left it, my stream running the game for like 30 hours straight. Yeah, idle game. Like Hatsune Miku in Domino's Pizza. Uh I have I have it set up better now than I used to, but I have really long USB cables that allows me to keep all of my full body trackers and controllers charging, and they charge faster than they're used. So I'll just kind of intermittently go in and out of plugging them in order to last that long. And my headset is wired, so the headset itself doesn't run out of power. Okay, while we have this nice background music, I'm going to see who to raid. So I'm slowly making progress to going off stream. Oh yeah, and this game was made in Godot too. And Godot, I think by default, keeps music running in the background while you're tabbed out. So that's really nice. I always hate it when like, oh, let me do something while this nice music's playing. Then I tab out and instantly everything cuts. Lots of people playing Callisto Protocol. Don't think I know anybody who's live right now. Tommy Wiseau is streaming. Oh yeah, Imakuni is live. She's raided me before. I think maybe I'll raid her. Let's see who else. Is she... Let me see, how long has she been live? 4 hours? Okay, so she's probably just started. I think she streams a long time too. Kind of like me, but she streams way more. She's playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Yeah, everyone else who's live are like 24-hour streams, or there isn't actually someone there, or they're massive like multi thousands of people streams that wouldn't really care about being rated. So I will raid Imakuni. Okay, let me get everything else sorted. You're finally pressing escape on this game. Just getting my raid thing open. Oh, and I missed it, but thanks for the follow. Tens one up. Yeah, this is a very eventful stream. A lot of games, a lot of fun moments, raids. And I'm going to put it all, I'm going to have to kind of split it up on YouTube. But, so if you missed it here, you can watch the VODs. It's in multiple parts because of crashing that happened. And then be on YouTube. And of course, I'm on Twitter. Everything is linked below the stream player. And everyone has a Discord server these days, so let me get you all a link to my Discord called Ludo Crypto. Has nothing to do with cryptocurrency, I promise. I actually reached the Discord server limit. I had to like leave a bunch to add new ones. All right, so there's my Discord. If you like mysterious things, spooky things, weird things. A lot of people in chat right now are already members there, so if you enjoy talking to people here, you can talk to them there too. Like Inner Evil. Inner Evil has been a very long time follower and supporter of my streams and Discords. Much appreciated. You're already in the Discord. Nice.